Welcome back, everybody. We are working on a little bit of review to start. We're going to work on a little bit of review of distributing, and then we're going to get into foiling. We did some foiling yesterday, not a ton of questions. Maybe after the quiz yesterday, our attention wasn't super good, to be honest. So today is super important. We're going to go through quite a few questions. They're going to start from, okay, this is totally doable. Actually, this is pretty easy. By the end of the notes, we're going to see some that, I won't deny are a little bit tough. So, working with this stuff, we see that we have first question. The first question, which just has review, a little bit of distribution, and we're going to have to then combine like terms, just like it says. Let me get this pass stopped. Here we go, click, click. So what we're going to work on is this first piece and distributing it. And then, of course, there's even a second piece and distributing that. That second piece has three things, so we're going to have to distribute it 3 times. Remember, when we do distributing, we're using multiplying. And multiplying means multiply the numbers and add the letters. So to get started, 3 times 4 is 12, and that 12 should have 3 x's on it because we have 2 on the term and 1 being multiplied. We're going to go ahead and do the next one here. Sounds good. Which is 3 times 6. 3 times 6 is 18, and this 18 should have 1, 2. This one should have x squared on it. Come on, guys. We're in the middle of the notes. All right, you need a piece of paper or pencil? All right, we got it over there. So we're going to keep going. We're going to get to this third one. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. X cubed. It's x cubed because we have 2 x's and we're gaining 1. Guys, we need to settle down. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know why we're annoying each other. Come on. Went to the back. Distribute this. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. That should have x squared. And then negative 2 times 6 should be negative 12. And that should have 1x on it. Now, something we're really going to focus on today is the recognition that the exponents should be a nice countdown, okay? If you notice this first piece, it goes x cubed, x squared. It's a nice countdown, 3, 2. If you notice the pink side, it goes 3, 2, 1. Because if you don't see a number there, it counts as 1x. And so we're going to always hope that our question here looks like a nice countdown. Okay, now for this question, it does say to combine like terms, something we're going to be doing today. I'll be honest, I graded quizzes from yesterday, and we struggled with the combining like terms part. We did. We were real good at the multiplying part, and honestly, we were real bad at the adding part. So when it comes to adding, you look for a 3 matching up with a 3. These two things are going to be like terms. And when you add these together, it is still going to be x cubed. It is not going to change because adding does not touch the letters. What is 12 minus 8? It's 4. Okay? So we're going to do the same thing. I see that we have 2 and 2. Add these together. Don't change the letters. 18 plus 6, 24. And I notice that this last guy here doesn't have any buddies. It is the only one. You just bring it down. Minus 12x. Okay? Again, just full disclosure, a lot of times when you're doing multiply, 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 all of a sudden you have to do an add and you get the rules wrong. Okay, a lot of us were putting like x6 and stuff like that. Now, again, what we're really looking for today is that pattern. 3, 2, 1. A nice countdown. 3, 2, 1. A nice countdown. Okay, getting to our first FOIL question today. Remember, foiling, when do you do it? Whenever you see a two-piece, x plus 6, and another two-piece, x minus 4, right? If you have anything that has parentheses like this and has a plus or minus in the middle, has a plus or minus in the middle, you have to use foiling for a situation like this. You have to, okay? So obviously, that's what we got for 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Number 2. Way we're going to think about this is we're going to think about these parentheses and 1 from the first parentheses, and we're going to distribute like that. Now, when we do this, we're going to get small, simple, easy numbers, small, simple, easy letters. It's all about organizing, and we talked about yesterday, the best way to set this up is to write it in 2 boxes right next to each other. Really, it's the next piece that introduces it. So, x times x, when we do this, is x squared. I'll tell you right now, the first 3 questions on the classwork, x times x makes x squared. For the first 3 questions, x times x makes x squared. And I actually had a student in first period who said, I don't know how to do any of this. And I was like, x times x makes x squared, literally almost every single question, and you don't know how to do this? All right? This first term is your x squared. Up next, we're going to take the x all the way to the negative 4. What is x times negative 4? You just put negative 4x. Okay? And then we're going to do our distributing like this, and we're going to take that negative 6 and distribute it. And this time, we're going to put our boxes, and we're going to stagger them a little bit so that we have some overlap here. 6 times x is 6x, and 6 times negative 4, right? Only that last one is really a calculator question, and that last one, okay, if you need a Desmos, use Desmos. 6 times negative 4. Now, once we get this far, again, we talked about this yesterday. I don't know how our focus was yesterday, but we did questions like this yesterday. The x squared is just the x squared. There's no other x squareds. We don't need to combine any like terms. And same with the minus 24. There's no other no x terms. But in the middle, we have this negative 4x plus 6x. Those are like terms. That's why we stacked them up. And what is negative 4 plus 6? Nice. Positive 2. Now here's the big thing. What the heck comes after this 2? Is it no x's, 1 x's, 2 x's? It's just an x. Okay? We gotta do a couple more. Maybe when we get to the back, I'll accept it. Okay? Alright. Looking at these questions. Again, I told you today, I want you to start to recognize that we have 2 x's followed by 1 x followed by no x's. It is that same pattern every time. I kind of did this yesterday, but if you get an answer and it looks like x squared plus 5x squared plus 6, how does this answer look? I hope it looks kind of gross. You can't have an x squared in the middle. This is wrong, right? It should be going 2, 1, 0. Okay. Moving on to the next question. We're just going to pick up the pace a little bit. We're going to take the first one and distribute it. We're going to make two little boxes. This one is a tiny bit harder because there's a few more numbers, but it's still not that bad. 2x times 5x. 2 times 5 is 10. And how many x's? X squared, because we have x times x. And then we're going to distribute over here. What is 2x times 6? 12. And how many x's on there? Just 1. What you'll start to realize is it's the same pattern. X squared, x. And then these next ones are going to be x, no x. Okay? We're going to distribute this. Negative 4 times 5x. Negative 20x. And then negative 4 times 6. Negative 24. Pretty familiar. We're doing a lot of the same numbers. These are all pretty small. We're going to be bringing this down. 10x squared, bringing this down. Minus 24. And in the middle, negative 8. And you put 1x on it. Again, the pattern is easy. 2 x's, 1x, no x. Right? That's a nice countdown. 2, 1, 0. Okay, next question. I'm going to give you guys a head start. I'm going to let you guys work on this for 90 seconds. See how you can do. Draw your boxes, draw your arrows, do your multiplyings.
What's up, sir?
Come on, working on number 4.
Why are you kicking?
Oh, I'm kicking it. Come on, number 4.
Do that one more time. Squish it.
One little small issue with number 4.
Bite your ass like a burger.
Yeah, start, you know how to maybe draw an arrow or draw some boxes, or even if you don't do anything. What is that? Mm-hmm. You have about 30 seconds left of your 90 seconds, of your minute and a half. Nice job. I'm seeing a lot of good stuff. I really hope to see you at least doing something on number 4. If number 4 is totally blank, it is a bit of a disappointment. I mean, draw an arrow or something. That's a little small. All right, so down here, here's what we should see. Some good things that you could draw. Draw some arrows like that. Guys, back to me, please. We could have some boxes on here, right? That could probably be a good thing to draw, just to make sure you're at least learning something. Even if you wrote it like this, like we know this is the pattern. The first one is the x squared, this one is the x, this one is the x. We got 3 little half conversations going on, guys. I'll be honest, I'm starting to get a little frustrated. 5 times 2 makes 10. I really hope that you'd be able to get far enough to have 10x squared. It's the first step. You literally just do 5 times 2 makes 10. Okay? Multiply these. 5x times 4 is 20. Then we're going to move on to our negative 7. Make sure that you have negative 14x, not positive 14x. And then make sure you finish. Ayana and Tyron, I need us to stop. Come on. Negative 28. Now, if you got all 4 of these, nice job. You did all the hard work. I don't even really think it was that bad. Now we just need to combine, so let's move our 10x squared and our minus 28 down. 10x squared minus 28. And then let's add these up in the middle. 20 minus 14 is 6. There should be one x on here. And what I was talking with him in the back about is just make sure between each of your terms you have a separator, right? This minus works as a separator, but I need something in here. If it's not going to be a minus, it needs to be a plus. And that is going to be the question. Now, we're going to move right on to number 5. Now, number 5 definitely has something a little bit spicier going on. Number 5 has these y's. So, because it has these y's, we're going to need to kind of take those into consideration, but it's not going to be that much harder. If you can do a question like number 1, you can definitely do a question like number 5. Okay, no kissy faces at each other, guys. Come on, focus up, please. We're doing x, and we're going to distribute that x. That shouldn't be very hard. Multiplying by x, like we can handle that. X times 3x is 3x squared. And here's where we're going to have to multiply with one of these y's. What is these two terms multiplied together? Well, remember, just do it in 3 separate little pieces. What is 1 times 2? 2. How many x's are there? 1 and 0. So there's 1. How many y's are there? 0 and 1. So there is 1. So we end up with 2xy. There's a single x right here. There's a single y right here. Okay? Now, we're going to move on to the next piece, and we're going to work with this 7y. So that means we're going to have y's when we distribute this 7y. What is 7 times 3? 21. How many x's between these two terms? Just the 1. And how many y's between these two terms? Just the 1. Remember, we stack it up. We expect them to have the same letters. And we're going to move on. Last step. 7y times 2y is 14. Y should be y squared. Okay, now again, even right now that probably still seems really crazy. Let's finish the question and then I'll explain how it's actually really easy and you can do it with no stress. 3x squared, 3x squared, 14y squared is 14y squared. And then add up these ones in the middle. What's 2 plus 21? 23. And then keep the letters the same. It has an X. It has a Y. Put a little spacer in there. Okay, now let me explain how this is actually not as complicated as it looks, right? We always have these X's at the start. Okay, we always have these x's at the start. And so the pattern is 2 x's, 1 x, 0 x's, right? It goes 2, 1, 0. I know that's kind of hard to see because I was writing in highlighter. If you look at the y's were on the back half of the bar. They were on the second half. They were at the end. And look at the y's. It goes 2, 1, 0. 2 y's, 1 y, 0 y's. So, don't kind of like overthink this as some mega hard. It's the same exact pattern. Squared, not squared, no x. And the y's are the same exact thing, they just move backwards. 2 y's, 1 y, 0 y. Okay, that's the warm-up. Honestly, this is kind of how the quiz is going to look tomorrow. Foiling questions, distributing questions. Let's flip this over, and I'll be honest, we're going to be getting harder on the back. So, harder questions. Up first, foiling. We're going to skip number 2. And when we're working on number 1, I see that for number 1, we have 2 pieces times 3 pieces. But it's really not that crazy, okay? We already know how to distribute 1 thing onto 3 things. We already did that today. So we're just going to need to do it 4x onto these 3 things. That means we're going to get 3 terms. Okay? What is 4 times 3? 12. And how many x's on that 12? 1, 2, 3. We should have 3 x's on that 12. What is 4 times negative 2? Negative 8. How many x's on that 8? 1, 2. And what is 4x times 4? 4 times 4 is 16. And there's only 1 x. And so we should have 1 x. Now before we move on, look at this nice pattern. 3, 2, 1. It's a nice countdown. Normally it goes 2, 1, 0, but for now we have 3, 2, 1. We're always looking for those countdowns. If you get this far and it looks like 3, 3, 1, it's wrong. It's got to be a nice little countdown. Okay? Let's move on to our second one here. This is a 2, a nice simple 2. All we got to do is multiply by 2. Okay? All we got to do is multiply by 2. 2 times 3 makes 6. And how many x's are on that 6? It should be x squared. And so let's put it in the right spot. That 6x squared, let's put it right here underneath the x squared, plus 6x squared. Just like on the front, we kind of skip the first spot and we slide it over. Okay? So we kind of skipped the first spot and we slide it over. Up next, 2 times 2x. It's actually a negative 2x. That's going to be negative 4x. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. It's got 1x. And then the last one is going to be 2 times 4. Oh, that's easy. 8. All right, we did this step, and look how nice it is. 2, 1, 0. It's a nice little pattern, and these line up. So for our question, let's bring down the 12x cubed. Let's bring down the plus 8. And then let's work on these little pieces here. What is negative 8 plus 6? It is negative 2. And how many x's should be on that one? X squared. Then let's go to this piece here. 16 minus 4. 12. And how many x's are on that? Just 1. And look at what we've got. Right? Again, this pattern, I hope you're seeing it everywhere now. 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. Right? So, it's just a nice little countdown. When I get papers and it literally says like x cubed, x cubed, x cubed, x, I'm like, what is this kid doing? Right? It should be a nice countdown. It's easy to check at the end of your question, is it a nice countdown? Okay. Now, I'm going to put a big highlighter on the next question. Okay. We're going to do one at the bottom. That's like an area perimeter. And you know, area perimeter is nice. But this question is guaranteed on your test this question is guaranteed on the SOL test. Definitely on the SOL. And I'll tell you right now, we are in the second half of the class. We have one priority, SOL test. So I'm going to put a little box on here, okay? We have parentheses, and we have a squared on those parentheses. Now, in order to do this question, you have to know, what does squared even mean, right? So if I do this, does anybody know what 5 squared is? So I heard a couple people say it, right? First of all, 5 squared is 25. And the reason it's 25 is because 5 squared means 5 times 5. So, if we have 5 times 5, what that means is to write it twice, right? If you have 5 squared, it literally means duplicate. Write it twice. So for this question, when we say something squared, we are going to write it twice. Okay? We're going to write it like this. Parentheses, parentheses. 3x, 3x. Plus 2, plus 2. We're going to duplicate it. Now, once we duplicate it, this question goes from very weird looking to very simple looking. It goes from, what the heck's happening here, to, yeah, I can definitely solve this question. And the truth is, these questions are actually a little bit easier because they're repetitive. It's literally the same thing twice. So you get to do like repeats of all the numbers. So we're going to go quickly through this question. I'm going to go, at a normal speed. I'm not going to go extra slow. Make sure our phones are put away, headphones put away. We've got 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9x squared, because that first term needs to be x squared. Then we're going to move on. 3x times 2. Right? 6x. Again, it goes x squared and then x. Then we're going to move underneath. What is 2 times 3x? That's literally the same thing we just did. We just did 3 times 2. Now we got to do 2 times 3. It's the same thing. Plus 6x. And then finish with 2 times 2. I mean, come on, guys. Literally 2 times 2 is 4. We bring it down. 9x squared plus 4. In the middle here, is 6 plus 6 0, or is 6 plus 6 12? 12, of course. How many x's on that 12? Just 1, because it should always be 2 x's, 1 x, no x. Okay, it's got to be that same pattern every time. All right, very last question here. We are going to do question B on number 5. It says find the perimeter and the area. Okay, so we have a little P here, which stands for perimeter. Now, perimeter means all the sides, and you need to add them up, right? We kind of talked about how when I was in high school, I used to have to run a perimeter all the way around the school. It was a very long run. So, for this question, if we're going to add up all 4 of these sides, I know that the first one is 6x squared plus 5. And since I know that this is a square, how long is this side? It's the same thing. right? It's a square. All the sides on a square are the same. So plus, same thing, 6x squared plus 5. And I'm going to add another one, plus 6x squared plus 5. And I'm going to add one more, because there's 4 sides, 6x squared plus 5. Right? That's side number 1, side number 2, side number 3, side number 4. And I just need to add them up. Look for my like terms. I see x squared, x squared, x squared, x squared. Right? I mean, we got 4 of these. What is 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6? Or 6 times 4 is 24. And how many x squared should we have? We have x squared, x squared, x squared, x squared. When you add them up, x squared. Don't change the letters. Very common when we do this question, people are going to put x8. But it's not x8. We're just doing addition. Then we've got 5, 5, 5, 5. Okay, that one's easy. It's just going to be 20. All right, this right here is the perimeter. Now, would there have been an easier way to find the perimeter? Anybody know what the easier way is? I think we could have just done this. 6x squared plus 5 times 4. Right? I mean, we've got 4 of them. I think we could have just done it times 4, right? Because 4 times 6 makes 24. 4 times 5 makes 20. So yeah, I think that would have worked maybe a little bit easier. Now, what we really want to focus on here is the area. Okay? The area is a little bit different. When you do the area, you need to multiply 1 length times 1 width. In other words, you need to multiply 6x squared plus 5, and you need to multiply that times one other side. Well, all the sides are the same, so it's going to be 6x squared plus 5. And that means we're going to have to do our very last question here with foiling. Jacob, I need you to take the headphone out, buddy. I don't know why you're Mr. Sneak a phone all day today, but a little annoying. Okay, finishing off this question. 6 times 6 is 36. Now here's something interesting. How many x's are going to be on that 36? Because we have 2 and 2. And we're doing multiplying, which means combine them together. We should have x4. Okay, that's kind of weird. We haven't done a FOIL question like that yet, where we got x4. Let's see what happens. What is 6x squared times 5? 6 times 5 is 30. How many x's on that? 1, 2, and 0. So it should be 2. Okay, let's move on. Last step. Let's do 5 times 6x squared. We literally just did that, right? Plus 30x squared. We just did 5 times 6 is 30x squared. And what's the last piece? 5 times 5? 25. We actually were talking about that like 2 minutes ago. Okay. It's a little bit different, but it still looks very familiar. This first piece is going to come down, 36x power 4. This last piece is going to come down, plus 25. And in the middle, what's 30 plus 30? 60. Plus 60. How many x is there? X squared. So instead of foiling being a 2, 1, 0, we're doubled up. Instead of 2, 1, 0, it goes 4, 2, 0. It's still a nice pattern, right? It's just double what we normally have. 4, 2, 0. All right, that was foiling. That was plenty of practice. At the same time, foiling is one of those things you're going to do a lot from now on. Nice job.